Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today it's going to be all Cadie talking. This is what she knows. When you hire people, is it an employee or is it a contractor? We're going to get into the details and we're going to let you guys know. I'm Karen. I'm a CPA, entrepreneur with big ideas, and I'm the mom.
I'm Cadie. I'm a payroll specialist, business owner, and detail-oriented person that makes things happen, and I'm the daughter. Welcome to Cheers to Business.
All right, Cadie, $64 million question. I got this guy that works for me, and he says he's 1099. Is he 1099 or is he an employee?
Well, is he wanting to be a 1099 to avoid paying payroll taxes?
Now, nobody would admit that.
Well, I would, there's a whole, IRS has a manual for, guiding employers on the classification of employees versus subcontractors, and it's 123 pages long.
What's the part where of a book you read, just the Cliff Notes?
That would be the IRS's 20-factor test.
Nice.
Or 20-point test, and it's really pretty simple to understand. It asks questions like, does the worker use their own supplies? Are they full-time? Are you guiding them on how the project should be completed? Is there training involved? And so I would definitely push someone to check out that 20-factor test.
What about if they have their own business? Can you just pretty much know they're 1099 if they have a business doing that activity?
I mean, that's a really good determining factor.
Now, I've been through, in my prior life, IRS audits, and they want to see invoices.
That would definitely help. But I mean, again, still, if they're using your supplies, you're setting the schedule. Yeah, if you're setting, you've done training. I like to use cleaning as an example. If someone is coming to the office once a week and they're telling you when they're going to be there, when they can be there, they're bringing their own supplies, they're cleaning it based on their terms. You're not telling them they're not there all the time.
So I didn't hire her to clean from 8 to 10 at night, and I'm paying her by the hour. So she's contract labor.
You're not paying her by the hour.
No.
Again, I don't want to say, oh, well, I'm paying them a flat fee. Boom, they're a subcontractor. There's different questions to ask to determine what they are. It's not one thing. It's not just the supplies. It's not just the schedule.
Well, give us some others.
Really, the biggest difference is the level of the control that the employer has over the worker.
Like if they're required to fill out timesheets.
Timesheets is a big example because typically subcontractors, it's paid by the project.
Right. You're hiring them to put on a roof on your house or replace your AC, not come be at your place every day and do what you tell them.
Build you a website, not maintaining that website on a daily in-house basis.
Okay, I got it. Now, one time in a prior life, I think the state unemployment office was going through the phone book. They were auditing this company, and they found in their general ledger where this person was only worked for like 2.5 months in the summer, college student, high school student, and they got the same amount of pay, an even number, every single week for those 2.5 months.
Yeah, that's a big factor is, those flat fees, even, no cents for the net pay.
Well, they didn't allow it, and I'm glad they didn't tell the feds because, that was state unemployment. They said they were being pushed by the feds to look for people who are getting paid 1099.
Department of Labor.
And so they're looking to see who you're 1099 and that they can reclassify as an employee. And because this was summertime help, people say, well, I'm just hiring them part-time. That doesn't matter, does it?
It also doesn't matter whether you're unsure of whether you're going to hire them. That's what I've seen a lot of is, they've been working for us for 90 days during the 90-day probation period as a subcontractor. And then at their 90-day, we're going to bring them on board. No, you can't do that. They could work for you for one day. And if they're working as an employee, they need to be classified as that.
The weirdest one I've seen is people who do films, actors. And baseball players, like in the minors or the majors, they get a W-2 for every one they're in. It's easy to have somebody with 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 W-2s, but none of those are 1099s.
Yeah, and that's a great example because, think about the director. Let's pretend that the director is the employer. They are telling them what to do, what to say, how to act. They are in control over the end result. It's not the actor coming in with his own script, I'm going to do it this way.
So how many times have you been asked, how can I do this where I don't pay payroll taxes?
Oh, I had someone call one time wanting to find out how to lower their payroll taxes. And I was like, well, you need to hire less people. But because, it's percentages. It's based, you've got your Social Security, your Medicare, which are fixed percentages. And then you've got your withholding taxes, which those are based on the tables.
All right, I want to talk about a misconception, because even when Payroll Vault, when you guys pull taxes out of people, out of their checking account to pay the taxes in, they go, oh, my payroll taxes are so high. Well, no, part of that's the gross that the employee chose, take some of their money and pay into federal withholding and state withholding.
Yeah, so that's kind of the difference is the net pay that their take-home pay. I mean, they're technically getting paid that gross pay, which is before taxes. Just part of that pay is being allocated to taxes.
That they chose, except for the required Social Security and Medicare.
Right.
Which the employer has to match.
Along with the federal and state unemployment.
That's really the employer expense
and I've heard
of payroll taxes.
I've heard, too, before, well, this person requested to be a subcontractor. That's irrelevant and doesn't matter. It's not up to them.
All right. How about this employee, and they're paying them right on a W-2, they said they're exempt. Who's exempt in this country?
There are people who are exempt. Who? You mean writing exempt on their withholding forms?
And not withholding anything.
One, that's their personal decision. They may not be filing taxes, so it may not matter. They want that money now. I'm not saying it's right, but that's why people would do it.
I once read I had to do some research, and I read, I think maybe with you, what are the ramifications if an employee wants to file or claim married in 15?
They can write down whatever number they want.
They can.
But with the proposed new withholding form, it's going to make it a whole lot more difficult because the IRS really wants people to withhold what they're supposed to be.
Right. I read one time in the IRS, and I could not find that code section now again, even if I wanted to, which I don't for sure, is that I've never seen it happen, but that the government could actually, you have to warn that employee and then kind of get another signed thing that I've been warned not to do this. So the liability, if it's ever gets blown up into this huge mountain, it doesn't come back on the employer.
Yeah. Again, so it doesn't come back on the employer. If you are classifying people as independent contractors, you definitely want to have that written contract in place explaining their classification. And I would include reasons, for example, you'll provide your own supplies.
You're your own business. Because I've seen in audits in my prior life that where if they have a federal ID number on that 1099 instead of a social.
That definitely helps for them to have
and then a business name, because you can be a Schedule C and not form a LLC or form a Inc., but, Wines or Us or whatever. And it is just you fill out your W-9 with your federal ID number with your business name and not your social. That shows more of a business presentation that you're in business doing something, not an employee.
And I'm glad you said that because that's definitely something is before you pay anyone, get a W-9. All that is it's a form for subcontractors so that they can provide their name, whether it be personal or their business name, their EIN or social, and address.
And while it's in your hand, send it to your accountant because you won't be able to find it later. So they can do the 1099s.
The reason you need that form is so that at the end of the year, you can give them a 1099. Another thing that you want to do...
Send it to your accountant. Just saying.
Or a payroll company.
Unless Payroll Vault's paying the 1099 people, then you do the 1099s.
One thing I also want to bring up is that the IRS will actually assist you with classifying someone if you're unsure. There's a form SS8 that you can complete, and they'll make the classification. But fun fact is, until they make that determination, you should pay them as an employee.
But what if I don't want to do that?
Well, I'm just saying if somebody wants to absolutely do things right, cool. That assistance is there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've called the Department of Labor with hypothetical questions.
Yeah, I've done that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Can you lower somebody's pay? I've had that one time.
You can in Alabama.
I know.
I know you can lower someone's pay without notice.
But when I called that time, it was years ago, called the Alabama Department of Labor, I said, hey, because the client was asking me, I said, can you lower somebody's pay without telling them? I mean, she got all over me, and she worked for the Department of Labor, and she goes, why would you do that? That's not right for you to do that somebody. I said, number one, I went to my preacher this week, and number two, I called you for knowledge because you work for, and you're paid by tax dollars. So I just need an answer. But yeah, that's how I found that out. That's crazy.
So another question that I've gotten before is, can someone be classified as both? Can I give them a W-2 and a 1099? So
in the same year?
Well, no, for doing different jobs for the business. So, for example, let's say that you have someone you have a bookkeeper for the business. Oh, well, she also does photography on the side, and you have an event coming up, and you want her to photograph that.
Or she cleans your office. That happens a lot.
Yeah, so it's best to keep it all classified. Keep someone classified in the same area, but if there's a legitimate, side project, we'll call it. But again, it does look better if they have a business name.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more with that one. So when somebody's a subcontractor, Cadie, how does it affect the workman's comp?
When you have a workers' comp audit, you, of course, turn in your W-2s, but then you also submit your 1099s along with their proof of insurance, the subcontractor's proof of insurance.
What if they didn't provide you with proof of insurance?
Then I've seen companies where the 1099s are included in that company's workers' comp.
Does that mean they should have been an employee?
Not necessarily. The company is just covering that workers' comp for the subcontractor.
Okay. I've seen a contractor one time, his subcontractors did not have workman's comp. So when he paid them for every job, he would back out whatever the percentage per 100 that he had to pay in workman's comp. He would take it from those people's pay to help pay for it.
I don't know.
But they were 1099, so it was just a negotiated, job price, basically.
Yeah.
But I've seen that done just because he didn't want to come out of pocket because they can't go or won't go get their own insurance.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Something interesting a lot of people may not know is that when the Affordable Care Act came out and the health insurance and everything, is that it was written in there that you had to provide everyone a 1099. I mean, Walmart, Alabama Power, Southern Company, I don't care who your power company is, you'd have to send them a 1099, everybody. And when that hit the air, I mean, every lobbyist for the AICPA and everything came out because that would have been insane. So that got repealed. But it was an indicator that they're pushing and looking for people to be classified correctly as employees and not 1099. They want to know about them.
I think another thing that the Department of Labor looks at, because I've kind of noticed a trend, I think when a business has been established for quite some time without any W-2s or any state unemployment reports being filed, and then all of a sudden they have 10 employees on payroll start being reported, I've noted those typically get selected for the audit. Also, if
you woke the puppy up.
Also, if you're not a seasonal business and payroll comes and goes, unemployment returns are filed one quarter and then it's 0 one quarter. Yeah. Those are also ones that I've noticed that get kind of pinged.
That makes sense to me, though.
So, I mean, I've said it in a previous episode. If you're in doubt of whether someone is a subcontractor or employee, or they're a sub and you're thinking, maybe they could possibly be an employee, classify them as an employee. Because if you're simply trying to save on the payroll taxes, it's going to cost you a whole lot more money in the future when you're dealing with back payroll taxes, penalties and interest. I mean, not to mention, there's just class action lawsuits have been filed because they may have been eligible for benefits that they weren't offered.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it at all.
Now, I've seen a big rush lately over the last couple of years for hair salons, gyms, people that you would typically think of 1099 and people. They're going to employees. Hair
salons, I've seen both arguments. I can see both sides of the arguments. That one's kind of a touchy subject. It gets really mushy. But yes, it's safer to just pay them as employees.
And be done with it.
Use that IRS 20-factor test. It's extremely helpful. Just type it into Google, subcontractor versus employee, 20-factor or 20-point test, IRS, and it'll come right up.
All right. Cadie, one thing we haven't mentioned is the dollar level of where you're required to send a 1099, which is $600 or more.
Yes.
Nobody wants to pay payroll taxes, of course, but is there a benefit for putting someone on a W-2?
Besides just avoiding the potential problems.
Yes.
Control.
Okay.
You, as the employer, have a say-so, have control over the work of that employee. Whereas a subcontractor, they're doing their job to their abilities. And so your hands are kind of tied, or you don't have as much control over the end result.
You could say, do that again and do it better, and they could say no.
Yeah.
I did what you hired me to do.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it.
Think about, if you hired a photographer for an event versus if you had a photographer on staff.
Got it. Good info. they changed the due dates to have 1099s done. We used to could go into February or in my prior life, but now they're due January 31st, same thing as W-2s. You have to have them all out. I don't see how a business would be able to prepare and know which forms to send to feds and know which forms to send to state. Does Payroll Vault or other companies pay 1099 people and prepare those?
So oftentimes people will pay the subcontractors, the company will pay the subcontractors directly. And then at the end of the year, they're collecting all the subcontractors' info, their basic and personal information, along with figuring out how much they paid them throughout the year. And then they're turning that information in for an accountant or a payroll company to prepare the 1099s. What I propose even better is have your payroll provider, if you use one, Payroll Vault can, is we will pay the subcontractors just like we do employees.
So direct deposit,
reloadable pay cards. You're not having to write them checks or keep up with how much you're paying them. It's automatic. And then there's nothing to do at the end of the year. They prepare the 1099s just like they would W-2s.
So everything's taken care of.
Everything is taken care of.
Nice. All right, so it's time to tell you what wine we're drinking today. And if you hire Brooke as your wine connoisseur educator, or what'd you call her, Cadie? Wino?
Well, I mean, I use her so much that I could pay her as a subcontractor, I believe.
So she'd get a 1099.
Yeah.
All right. So today's wine is Domaine de la Ville Cures. Is it Cures or Cure?
That's not even English.
I bet you it's from Oregon or somewhere. No, this is Maine, France.
What type of wine is it?
I can't read it. It's in French.
It tastes good. It's a white wine. It
tastes good. Muscadet sur it Maine. Sur la. See, look.
Okay.
I didn't make it up.
Thank you, Donkey Market, for the wine this show and for all of our shows. It's Cheers. Delicious.
I think I did it right that time.
We'll go ask Donkey Market how to pronounce it.
Hey, when you go get Brooke to straighten you out on your wine, don't forget about the cheese of the month, the Cheese and Wine Club. And she's holding events now in her venue with wines, company events or girlfriend showers. So go in there and ask for Brooke and let her hook you up. And also remember that we'd love for you. Number one, we love you listening. But number two, go to iTunes. Go to iTunes and rate us and get our listens up. We're really excited about it. And we're on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, and YouTube. And if you really like our show, then send it to a friend. Let a friend know. Let them listen. Let them know how to go like our Facebook or subscribe to us. And help us to make an impact. Well, then we might as well go ahead and wrap it up, Cadie. Cheers to knowing the difference between an employee and a contractor. And cheers to making 1099s easy.
Cheers to all of our listeners. We appreciate you.
Y'all, thank you so much for listening and being here with us today. I'm Karen.
I'm Cadie. Please be sure to subscribe to Cheers to Business podcast on iTunes or anywhere else that you get your podcast. Visit our Facebook and be sure to give us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, shoot us an email from the website cheerstobusiness.com.